After 11 years building my family's restaurant into a local gem, my parents replaced me with my MBA-toting little brother. 9 days later, they lost an $850,000 deal I had landed, and then came begging for my help. The award plaque slips from my fingers as I stand frozen in the doorway of Riverside Ember's private dining room. The glass trophy crashes against the polished hardwood floor, the crack echoing like a gunshot through the silence. No one even flinches. Their eyes remain fixed on the projection screen, where my brother's PowerPoint presentation glows with corporate confidence. Riverside Ember Expansion Strategy, CEO Caleb Morgan. CEO Caleb Morgan. My throat constricts as I scan the faces around our antique mahogany table. My father's proud smile, my mother's hands clasped in anticipation, and my brother's perfectly pressed suit as he stands at the head of the table. My table. The place I've occupied for over a decade of family meetings. "Jovi," Dad says, clearing his throat. "You're late. We've already started the annual meeting." "Annual meeting?" My voice sounds distant to my own ears. "You moved it up 2 weeks. The restaurant's 15th anniversary celebration is tomorrow. I've been finalizing details all morning." Caleb clicks to the next slide. "Which is exactly why we need to formalize the transition now. The celebration provides the perfect announcement opportunity." Transition? The word tastes bitter. Mom leans forward. "Honey, we've transferred operational control to Caleb, effective immediately. We wanted to surprise you." "Congratulations," I whisper, but no one hears me over the sound of my world shattering. Just last week, I stood under the spotlights at the Portland Culinary Excellence Awards, accepting Seafood Dish of the Year for my king crab with tangerine glaze. The audience had erupted in applause, but at our celebration dinner afterward, my parents had merely picked at their food. "It's nice, Jovi," Dad had said, swirling his wine, "but not scalable. We need to think bigger." Meanwhile, they'd raised their glasses to Caleb, toasting his business school network and fresh perspectives. Never mind that while he visited during summer breaks, I spent countless nights perfecting recipes, building relationships with local suppliers, and doubling our revenue over the last 5 years. Now, I grip the back of a chair to steady myself. "You can't be serious. I have a culinary degree. I built our marketing strategy. I doubled our revenue. And we appreciate that, honey." Dad's tone drips with condescension. "You're fantastic in the kitchen, but Caleb understands business. You can still be our head chef." Head chef. As if I haven't been running this entire operation for years while they semi-retired to their lake house. As if the awards, the glowing reviews, the loyal customers who know me by name mean nothing. My hands stop trembling as clarity washes over me. I reach into my pocket, remove my restaurant keys, and place them deliberately on the table with a metallic clink. "I'm not just your chef. I built this brand." Caleb sighs dramatically. "See, Dad? This is exactly what I warned you about. She's too emotional about business decisions." Dad frowns. "Jovi, you need to understand. This isn't personal, it's about scaling the business." "Not personal?" I laugh. This sounds sharp and unfamiliar. "You blindsided me during the anniversary celebration I organized. You didn't even consult me about changes to the restaurant I've poured my heart into for 11 years. "That's enough," Mom cuts in. "Caleb has an MBA. He knows what he's doing." And there it is, the familiar pattern. They automatically side with Caleb, dismissing my concerns as emotional overreactions rather than legitimate business insights. It's not just my position at risk, but my culinary reputation, the quality standards I've established, the relationships I've nurtured with suppliers and customers. As I look at them huddled together, a realization crystallizes in my mind. They've never seen me as an equal partner. To them, I've always been staff, the reliable worker who keeps things running while they make the real decisions. "You know what?" I say, my voice steadier than I feel. "Maybe you're right. Maybe Caleb should take over." Their faces relax with visible relief. "But remember this moment." I continue, stepping back toward the door. "Because when you realize what you've thrown away, don't expect me to pick up the pieces." I turn and walk out, leaving behind the shattered award that suddenly means nothing at all. Later that night, I only meant to grab my apron from the office, not to discover the depth of my brother's treachery. But there it is on Caleb's open laptop, the West Shore Grand Hotel's logo glaring from his screen like an accusation. My vision narrows as I read the email, my fingers gripping the doorframe to steady myself. "Dear Mr. Morgan, We acknowledge your cancellation of Thursday's contract meeting. While we're disappointed to postpone discussions on the $850,000 catering partnership, we look forward to your presentation of streamlined, cost-effective alternatives to the original menu proposal. The floor seems to tilt beneath me. That meeting wasn't Caleb's to cancel. I'd spent 6 months cultivating that relationship, designing seasonal menus, calculating exact food costs that would maintain our quality while ensuring their profit margins. $850,000, nearly a quarter of our annual revenue dismissed with a single email. I scroll down, nausea building as I read further. Regarding your inquiry about modifying the award-winning seafood offerings, we're open to alternatives provided they maintain the standard of excellence we experienced during our initial tasting with Chef Jovi. The betrayal runs deeper than I imagined. Just 3 weeks ago, Caleb had leaned over my station, notebook in hand, asking detailed questions about my tangerine glaze recipe. "Just trying to learn from the best," he'd said with that boyish grin that always worked on our parents. Now I understand he wasn't learning. He was plotting. My hands shake with an anger so profound it feels like another presence in the room. 6 years of culinary school, 11 years of 60-hour weeks. Also, my brother could swoop in with his MBA and his PowerPoint slides and dismantle everything I've built. The next morning, I pushed through the service entrance of Riverside Ember 30 minutes before the supplier meeting I wasn't invited to attend. The kitchen staff exchange worried glances as I pass, their whispers following me down the hallway. I pause outside the private dining room, listening to Caleb's confident tenor. The door is slightly ajar, giving me a clear view of the antique mahogany table where Marcus, our fishmonger of 8 years, sits with a deep furrow between his brows. Beside him is Eleanor, whose family farm has provided our produce since before I joined the restaurant. Across from them sits Caleb in a charcoal suit that still has the tailor's chalk marks visible at the cuffs. The premium seafood orders are simply unsustainable at our current scale, Caleb is saying, sliding glossy folders across the table. We'll be transitioning to a more consistent supplier with nationwide distribution. Marcus clears his throat. Chef Jovi specifically chose our products because we can guarantee same-day catch. Your customers will taste the difference. Our customers are looking for value and consistency. Caleb counters smoothly. Similarly, Eleanor, we'll be consolidating our produce orders through Portland Restaurant Supply. Their volume discounts will substantially improve our margins. Eleanor's weathered hand tightens around her mug. Those tomatoes you love come from my southeastern field. They get morning sun but afternoon shade. That's why they're sweeter than anything you'll get from a wholesale distributor. I can't stay silent any longer. I push the door open, and 3 heads swivel toward me. Jovi. Caleb's smile doesn't reach his eyes. This is a private meeting. With my suppliers, I counter, moving to stand behind Marcus and Eleanor. The people who've helped build our reputation for quality. Caleb sighs dramatically. My sister is having trouble adjusting to the new direction. Please direct all questions to me going forward. What new direction? I ask, reaching for the folder in front of Marcus. Inside are mock-ups of new menus. My award-winning king crab with tangerine glaze is gone. So is my cedar plank salmon with huckleberry reduction. In their place are generic descriptions: grilled seafood platter and fish of the day. You're standardizing the menu, I say, the words sour in my mouth, for chain expansion. We're creating scalable systems, Caleb corrects, standing to reassert his authority. Dad and Mom agree it's the right move. The stakes crystallize in my mind with perfect clarity. This isn't just about my job, it's about everything I've built. My culinary reputation, the loyal customers who come specifically for my seasonal creations. And now, the $850,000 West Shore Grand contract that could have secured our financial future while maintaining our standards. Marcus, I say quietly, what will happen to your business without our orders? The fishmonger shakes his head. We'll survive, but I've got 2 boats that fish primarily for Riverside Ember. I'll need to let one captain go. Eleanor adds, and I've been expanding my heirloom varieties based on your menu plans, Jovi. If you're not buying, I'll have to plow under half my crops this season. Caleb clears his throat. These are unfortunate but necessary business adjustments. Speaking of adjustments, Jovi, we should discuss your compensation package. The head chef position doesn't warrant executive-level pay. The final insult lands like a physical blow. 11 years of 60-hour weeks building this restaurant's reputation, and now I'm facing a demotion and pay cut while watching everything I've created being dismantled for the sake of scalable systems. Later that evening, after everyone has gone, Daniel finds me in the kitchen, methodically packing my personal knives. "The kitchen staff is with you," he says quietly, his voice steady after 8 years as my sous chef. "Whatever you decide to do, we believe in your standards, not his." As I wrap my favorite Santoku knife in protective cloth, the question weighs heavy on my mind. Should I stay and fight for the business I helped build, or walk away completely and start fresh? Fighting meant painful daily confrontations with my family, but leaving meant abandoning everything I'd worked for over a decade. What would you do when the people who should value you most fail to see your worth? 2 days later, the staff meeting invitation appears in my inbox with the subject line, "Menu Overhaul Implementation, Mandatory Attendance." I read it twice, my jaw tightening. Caleb has scheduled it during prep time when he knows I'm busiest. The conference room buzzes with nervous energy when I slip in 5 minutes late, hands still damp from prepping vegetables. Caleb stands at the head of the table, my spot, his tailored suit a stark contrast to my flour-dusted chef's coat. "Perfect timing, Jovi." I was just explaining our exciting new direction. Caleb clicks to the next slide, revealing a streamlined menu stripped of my signature dishes. "We're implementing these changes effective tomorrow." But the king crab with tangerine glaze is our most requested dish. Lauren, our lead server, protests. We have regulars who come specifically for it. Caleb's smile tightens. The new menu prioritizes efficiency and scalability. We can't be held hostage to one chef's specialties. One chef. Like I'm just another employee instead of the person who built this restaurant's reputation. The changes hit like a tsunami. Within days, regular customers begin questioning servers about missing favorites. Mrs. Abernathy, who celebrated her anniversary here for 8 years, leaves without ordering when told the halibut with preserved lemon is no longer available. What happened to the quality? Becomes a common question, and Caleb's response is always the same: blame the kitchen staff. Not his decisions. Not his leadership. The execution in the back of house isn't meeting our standards. I overhear him telling the Millers, longtime patrons who sent back their overcooked steaks. Lauren's face burns with embarrassment as she apologizes for food she knows isn't what it should be. The final blow comes when Portland Plate, the city's most respected food blog, publishes a review titled, "Has Riverside Ember Lost Its Flame?" The writer, who'd previously praised my innovative approach to traditional American cuisine, now questions whether the restaurant has abandoned its commitment to quality in favor of mass appeal. Inside the kitchen, the sabotage continues. I arrive one morning to find my specialty equipment, the custom smoker, the imported mandolin, the precision thermometers relocated to storage. In their place stand 3 identical deep fryers. Where's my equipment? I demand. Caleb said we need more fryer capacity for the new appetizer menu, Daniel explains, not meeting my eyes. Your stuff is in the storage closet by the loading dock. Each night, I lie awake staring at the ceiling, mentally recreating recipes I've spent years perfecting. For the first time since culinary school, cooking feels like a burden rather than a joy. The kitchen, once my sanctuary, has become a battleground where every dish is a potential conflict. The staff walks on eggshells, caught between loyalty to me and fear of unemployment. When I instruct the line cooks to finish the salmon with compound butter, Caleb countermands the order moments later. The recipe says olive oil only, he announces loudly. We need consistency, not improvisation. But cooking isn't manufacturing. It's art and science and intuition all wrapped together. Caleb's standardization strips away everything that makes food worth creating. After one particularly grueling service where 3 tables sent back Caleb's version of my scallop dish, I retreat to the walk-in cooler, pressing my forehead against the cold metal shelving. Tears of frustration threaten, but I refuse to let them fall. That night, I start documenting everything: recipes, techniques, supplier relationships in a leather-bound journal. If I can't preserve my kitchen, I'll at least preserve my culinary legacy. The next evening, after everyone has gone home, I find a small tangerine placed precisely at my station. Beneath it lies a handwritten note in Daniel's unmistakable scrawl. Your recipes, your vision. Some things can't be replaced, even by an MBA. For the first time in weeks, I smile. The breaking point comes during prep for the West Shore Grand Executive Dinner. The kitchen thrums with tension as staff rush to prepare for the most important service since Caleb took over. The $850,000 contract hangs in the balance. I'm adjusting the seasoning on the sauce reduction when my father appears in the doorway, Caleb at his shoulder. "Jovi, we need to talk about tonight's menu," Dad says, his voice carefully modulated. "Caleb has some concerns about your preparations." "My preparations are exactly what won us this opportunity in the first place," I reply, not looking up from the simmering pot. "Jovi, you need to accept that Caleb's in charge now," Dad says, stepping closer. "This is business, not personal." The wooden spoon freezes in my hand. Everything about food is personal. That's why people come back. They don't connect with efficiency, they connect with passion. "The West Shore people want to see scalable concepts," Caleb interrupts, "not fancy one-offs that only you can execute." His words crystallize everything wrong with their vision. They don't want a restaurant, they want a production line. They don't want my food, they want something anyone could make. "You know what I realized?" I say, setting down the spoon and untying my apron. "We don't share the same values anymore. You see food as a commodity. I see it as an experience." "Don't be dramatic," Dad says. "We're talking about a business decision." "No, we're talking about my life's work." I face them both squarely. "I'm not going to watch you destroy what I've built. I quit and I'm taking my recipes with me." The kitchen falls silent. Even the hood vents seem to hold their breath. "You can't quit," Caleb sputters. "Not tonight. Not with West Shore coming." "Watch me." I haven't even reached the door when Daniel steps forward. If Chef Jovi is leaving, so am I. 3 more cooks remove their aprons. The sous chef, the pastry chef, the line lead, my people, my team. Later that evening, my phone buzzes with a text from Eleanor, my produce supplier. "Wherever you land, your special ordering arrangement comes with you. Quality recognizes quality." For the first time, I allow myself to envision something new, not fighting for scraps of respect in my family's restaurant, but building something truly mine. That night, I sketch concepts for my own restaurant in the margins of my recipe journal, the pages filled with possibilities rather than grievances. The next morning, I make 2 calls. First to Anthony Vicente, West Shore Grand's culinary director, requesting a private meeting. The second call surprises even me. As I clear out my office, a business card falls from my desk calendar. Marianne Wells, restaurant space realtor. We'd met at a Chamber of Commerce event months ago, and she'd mentioned a prime location opening in the Pearl District. I pick up my phone, my fingers steady as I dial her number. "Marianne, it's Jovi Morgan. I think I'm ready for that space we discussed." A week later, my portfolio slides across the polished mahogany table toward Jason Mercer, whose weathered hands have funded 3 of Portland's most successful restaurants. The morning light streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the conference room of Portland First Capital. "I've followed your work at Riverside Ember for years," Jason says, studying my king crab with tangerine glaze photo. "Your flavor combinations are remarkable." I straighten my burgundy blazer, channeling confidence I've rebuilt over the past week. My vision is modern American cuisine featuring sustainable, local ingredients. The dishes that won awards weren't flukes, they were the culmination of relationships with suppliers who understand my standards. Jason nods appreciatively. "Most chefs talk ingredients. You talk relationships and systems. That's refreshing." I've prepared for this moment meticulously, rehearsing my pitch while designing my business plan into the early hours. The separation from Riverside Ember burns fresh, but determination has replaced the initial shock. I won't just recreate what worked before, I explain, turning to the financial projections. I've identified exactly where costs can be trimmed without compromising quality. Before I finish my presentation, Jason leans forward. "I'll back you. Your portfolio speaks for itself, but your clarity about lessons learned from the family business tells me you're ready to lead. How soon can you secure a location?" A weight lifts from my shoulders. "Actually, I've found a space in the Pearl District. The previous restaurant closed 3 months ago, fully equipped kitchen, excellent foot traffic." Jason raises an eyebrow. Impressive preparation. 2 hours later, I stand in the empty restaurant space, negotiating terms with the property manager. Sunlight spills through windows that will soon showcase Jovi's hearth to passersby. Each decision feels like reclaiming a piece of myself. Back at my apartment, my phone buzzes with a text from Daniel. Disaster at West Shore Grand Meeting. Execs not happy. Caleb sweating bullets. I pour a glass of Pinot Noir, savoring both the flavor and the news. The meeting Caleb hijacked from me has apparently gone exactly as I predicted. Daniel calls an hour later. You would have laughed, he says, his voice hushed. Caleb tried serving your tangerine glaze, but it was nothing like yours. Too sweet, weird consistency. He added too much sugar to compensate for using inferior tangerines, I reply, knowing my brother's tendencies. The executives noticed immediately. One of them actually asked where you were, Daniel chuckles. They cut the meeting short, saying they needed to reconsider certain aspects of the partnership. Caleb looked like he might throw up. I lean back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. And the fallout? Chaos. Caleb's calling every supplier, trying to figure out what's wrong with the ingredients. But Eleanor's not answering his calls, and Marcus told him the premium seafood he's been getting was based on your relationship. Relationships take years to build. I murmur. That's not all, Daniel continues. 3 corporate events canceled today. Words spreading about quality issues. Your parents look shell-shocked. The news should feel more satisfying than it does. Instead, I feel a complicated tangle of vindication and sadness for the restaurant's reputation I worked so hard to build. My phone beeps with an incoming call, Mom. I let it go to voicemail, then listen. Jovi, honey, please call us back. The West Shore Grand Dinner is next week, and we need your help. The family needs you. Please. Her voice cracks on the final plea. I press my forehead against the cool window glass, watching traffic below. When my mother called that evening, tearfully asking me to save the family by helping with the West Shore Grand Dinner, I hesitated. Would returning to help preserve what I'd built show strength, or would it simply enable more of the same behavior that pushed me out? The next morning, Daniel arrives at my apartment with a folder. Thought you might want these, he says, sliding a stack of papers across my kitchen counter. Daily revenue reports, reservation numbers, customer complaints. They're spiraling. I flip through the documents, noting the sharp decline. They'll blame external factors. They're trying, but the numbers don't lie. Daniel leans against the counter. The kitchen staff is with you. Just say the word. Later, Eleanor introduces me to specialty farmers from the Willamette Valley, who can supply Jovi's hearth with heirloom vegetables unavailable to larger restaurants. We walk between rows of rainbow chard, the morning dew still clinging to the leaves. These families have been farming for generations, Eleanor explains. They're excited about working with a chef who appreciates their craft. Marcus calls while I'm driving home. Jovi, I've got a shipment of Alaskan king crab coming next week. Premium quality. And I'm having dinner with Thomas Reynolds tomorrow night. I nearly swerve. The Thomas Reynolds? From Coastal Ventures? The very same. He's looking to invest in a new restaurant concept. I might have mentioned your name. The pieces fall into place faster than I dared hope. With Marcus's seafood connections, Eleanor's produce network, and Daniel's insider information, I can accelerate my timeline by weeks. That afternoon, I receive an email that makes my hands tremble. West Shore Grand executives requesting a meeting to discuss my independent culinary concepts. They've found me. Meanwhile, Riverside Ember's social media pages fill with questions. Where's Chef Jovi? Is she coming back? One review reads, food quality has declined dramatically, missing the previous chef's touch. My father's voicemails grow increasingly desperate. Jovi, this West Shore contract is critical for our expansion. Please reconsider. We can talk about your position. The crack in their facade widens with each passing day. Pride crumbles under the weight of consequences, revealing the truth I've always known. They need me far more than I need them. I stand in the empty space that will become Jovi's hearth, envisioning the future taking shape, a future built on respect, quality, and my unwavering standards. For the first time since walking out of Riverside Ember, I smile without reservation. A week later, the sight of my father's Lexus pulling up outside my new restaurant space sends a wave of satisfaction through me. For once, they're coming to me. I stand in the doorway watching as all three emerge, Dad with his shoulders unnaturally stiff, Mom glancing nervously at the for lease sign now sporting a bold pending sticker, and Caleb trailing behind in uncharacteristic silence. Jovi, Dad attempts a warm smile that doesn't reach his eyes. This is interesting. A bit small compared to Riverside, isn't it? I don't respond, simply holding the door open. The construction dust hangs in the afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows. Exposed brick walls and reclaimed wood flooring create exactly the atmosphere I've envisioned. We've been trying to reach you, Mom says, her fingers worrying at her pearl necklace. The restaurant needs you. Caleb clears his throat. We've developed a new proposal. He pulls out a leather portfolio. Equal partnership between us. You handle the kitchen, I manage the business side. With us retaining final decision authority, Dad adds quickly, for continuity. When I don't immediately respond, his tone shifts. The family legacy is at stake, Jovi. Don't you care about what Grandpa built? What we've all built together? Mom steps closer, her voice softening. We're offering you what you wanted. Why are you being so stubborn? I walk to the makeshift desk in the corner where my laptop sits open. You know what's interesting? You never once asked what I actually wanted. I turn the screen toward them, revealing my business plan. And now it's too late. Their confused expressions fuel something warm in my chest. I secured my own funding 2 weeks ago. The lease is signed. I pull out a folder and remove a document with the West Shore Grand logo emblazoned across the top. And this arrived yesterday. And this? Dad snatches it, eyes widening as he reads. This is a letter of intent for partnership. $500,000? Exclusive arrangement featuring my signature dishes. I can't help the pride in my voice. They were quite interested in working with the actual chef behind the award-winning menu, not a corporate substitute. You can't do this, Caleb stammers. The West Shore deal was ours. It was mine. I cultivated that relationship for 3 years. I moved to the center of the room. I didn't want partnership. I wanted respect. And I found investors who give me both. From another folder, I withdraw a stack of papers and hand them to my father. These might interest you too. He flips through the printouts, color draining from his face. Online reviews of Riverside Ember since my departure. Quality has plummeted. Not the same restaurant. Where's the chef who made this place special? Mom peers over his shoulder, her hand covering her mouth. I walk past them toward the kitchen area, gesturing at the space around us. The hood ventilation goes in next week. We're keeping the open kitchen concept, but expanding the chef's counter to seat 12. I ignore their attempts to interject. The wine program will feature small local vineyards, and we're installing a wood-fired oven there. Dad's face reddens. You're making a mistake. The Riverside Ember name has recognition. People know us. Maybe. I was never building your brand. I was building mine. The truth feels liberating. People came for my food, not your name. That's what you never understood. The front door chimes, and 2 men in coveralls enter, carrying a large package. Delivery for Jovi Morgan? Perfect timing, I say, signing for the package. The men carefully unwrap it, revealing a copper sign with hand-hammered letters, Jovi's Hearth. The men hold it up against the exposed brick wall above, where the entrance to the dining room will be. Soft copper glows in the afternoon light. You'll lose everything, Caleb says, but his voice wavers. I already did. 11 years of work, my family's trust. I turn to face him fully. But I'm building something better. Caleb's perfect composure finally cracks. We can't recreate your dishes. Nothing tastes the same. The seafood supplier won't even return my calls. That's because cooking isn't a business formula. It's a relationship with the food and the people you serve. I run my hand along the reclaimed wood counter. You can't quantify passion or scale personal connection. When they leave, shoulders slumped in defeat, I stand in the center of my space, my restaurant, my future. The satisfaction is deeper than I expected. 2 weeks later, Daniel forwards me an email about Riverside Ember seeking a bridge loan to cover operational shortfalls. Regular customers have been drifting away, and rumors spread about a complete menu overhaul in a desperate bid to rebrand. The family question remains unresolved. My phone shows 3 missed calls from Mom just today, but I'm not ready to answer. Not yet. There's too much to do, too much at stake. On the night of Jovi's Hearth soft opening, I weave between tables filled with food critics, loyal former customers, and industry friends. The kitchen hums with the beautiful chaos I've created, executing my vision precisely as I imagined. Near closing, I emerge for a final greeting round when I spot her, my mother, sitting alone at a corner table, a half-finished plate of my king crab with tangerine glaze before her. Our eyes meet across the room, and for the first time in months, I see something beyond the disappointment and manipulation: recognition. 6 months later, the copper saucepan sings against the flame as I reduce the tangerine glaze, no longer needing to justify my decision to triple the fresh fruit or the splash of bourbon I add on instinct. Behind me, 3 line cooks move with practiced precision, their knives flashing as they prep for tonight's service. "Chef, we're ready for the tasting menu review," Daniel calls, now my executive sous chef, rather than just an ally in a kitchen that never truly valued either of us. I nod, allowing myself a moment to admire the gleaming expanse of Jovi's hearth. My restaurant, my vision, my rules. The fall menu changes I've planned celebrate local harvests rather than compromising with frozen substitutes Caleb would have insisted upon. The seasonal rotation has become our hallmark, drawing praise from critics who once barely knew Riverside Ember existed. "Coming," I answer, wiping my hands on my apron as I move toward the prep station where Zoe, a culinary student I've taken under my wing, anxiously awaits my verdict on her sauce work. "The consistency is perfect," I tell her, remembering how my mother once dismissed my first reduction as too fussy. I add, "Now tell me why you chose thyme instead of rosemary." Her explanation shows promise. This is how mentorship should feel, not dismissal dressed as guidance, but genuine investment in someone's growth. Later, my phone buzzes with another reservation request. We're booked solid through December, with food critics from Chicago and New York requesting tables. National press attention has turned our corner of Portland into a destination, vindicating every sleepless night spent perfecting recipes in my tiny apartment kitchen after leaving my family's restaurant. The afternoon mail brings an envelope from the American Culinary Federation. Inside, an invitation to next month's awards ceremony, where Jovi's Hearth is nominated for Restaurant of the Year. The same ceremony where, just 18 months ago, I stood clutching an award while my parents whispered about my brother's business acumen. When the announcement comes at the gala, I don't drop the plaque in shock like last time. Instead, I accept it with steady hands, the spotlight warm on my face as I thank my team by name: Daniel, Eleanor, who still supplies our produce, Marcus, whose seafood makes our signature dishes possible, and every cook who believed enough to follow me. Success isn't just about proving others wrong. I tell the audience, my voice carrying confidence I've earned through fire. It's about proving yourself right. Back at the restaurant, we gather after closing. Eleanor brings champagne while Marcus proudly displays the first advance copy of my cookbook. Daniel uncorks the bottle with a satisfying pop, filling glasses around our family table, the one where staff meals are shared, not where decisions are dictated. To building something that truly reflects who we are, I toast, not who others think we should be. Their glasses rise in response, light catching the bubbles inside. The next morning, spread across my desk, 5 different expansion offers from luxury hotels sit alongside an invitation to judge the Pacific Northwest culinary competition. My grandfather's weathered photo watches from its frame beside my awards, his original diner that started it all, before business plans and MBAs entered our family vocabulary. A knock at my office door reveals Caleb, resume in hand, here for the operations director interview I agreed to after our mother's tearful intervention at Christmas. As I consider whether to bring my brother into my business, I wonder if some family relationships can be rebuilt on new foundations, or if some bridges, once burned, should stay crossed. Would you give someone who betrayed you professionally a second chance if they showed genuine change, or is business and family best kept permanently separate? Sometimes the biggest favor someone can do is underestimate you. It forces you to truly value yourself.